It is the Cicada type, debuting all the way back from the days of Medarot 3 and finally making a grand appearance. It is CCD00 Semi-Cicade, coming with a kit of melee trap, double break, flight legs, and the leg ability of Nest, which reinforces any placed traps on the enemy side when charging Metaforce. So honestly, it is really nice to see another returnee, in particular a lesser known one, making a return back from the days of Medarot 3, and I highly anticipate we will be seeing more in the future from here forward. But that aside, Melee Trap is a setup-based passive aggression skill. So what it does is that it sets a trap on the opposing side of the field, and anytime any of the enemies choose to use a melee-based skill, they will eat passive-aggressive damage. That may even also break apart if it does end up sticking around long enough. Damage is overall very consistent with support with setup-based skills, so even though it may not be super high damage or very high dealing power, it will be consistent. So is passive aggression in the rare case that you have to use a setup-based skill, it is relatively solid for what it offers if you are facing someone that uses melee-based skills. Break is a gravity-based attribute, which means already right off the bat it is fantastic for facing off against anyone with heavy parts. So you have that extra heavy punish if you face off against someone using primarily and preferably 2 or more heavy parts for that extra damage bonus. Across the board, the stats, you really don't need a very high power for break or press either, because a lot of it is going to rely on that damage bonus from the heavy punish of the opponent if they're using 2 or more. But preferably you want to be smacking an opponent with 3 just to guarantee and maximize the high likelihood. But because it is a gravity attribute attack, you do also get a bonus to your success, which is the likelihood of landing the hit and landing a critical hit with certain Metaforce thresholds being met. And at 5-star, that is about 30%, or basically just 1 turn of charging Metaforce. Flight legs means that Semi-Cicade is good on most terrains relatively decently, and will have a very naturally high mobility, which also is great. He does also have a very nice evade stat at 1575, which is very, very nice. Unfortunately, his melee and shoot resist are rather low, meaning that he is going to be taking a little bit extra punish from both shooting and melee-based attacks whenever he is on the field trying to maintain his edge and maintain his contribution on the field. However, the Nest ability does tie into his head use very nicely, as once that melee trap has been set, essentially, say for instance it's getting ready to run out of charges, all you have to do essentially is just charge Metaforce on that turn, and you would actually reset and reinforce the trap so it doesn't expire, forcing you to have to put it down another time. So as a pure set, actually just touching on that before I do, the charging Metaforce would actually tie in very nicely to break as well, as it is gravity and Metaforce reliant to a degree. So pretty much by himself, Semi-Cicade is pretty well balanced for what he offers, and more or less any kind of skill that he chooses to use on the field can be complemented and benefited very easily. So for these reasons, I would rate him a pretty solid 6.5 out of 10 as a pure set score across the board. He is just a little squishy in the HP department though, at about 3,000 HP for the head, about 2950, just barely 3,000 per arm, and about 3050 for his legs. And on top of that, with the low shoot and melee resist, it means he is going to be relatively easy to break if you do face off against someone who has higher end power, or maybe has the advantage on the base power. So if he is going to take a hit, he is going to be hurting just a little bit, but from that aside, he does still pretty much complement his build very easily without very little issue, or without anyone needing to really follow behind him and support him. As mixed parts, I would rate him just a little higher at a 7 out of 10 for the set, and the fact that with break you can use it just about anywhere, which is nice. Flight legs you can generally never go wrong with for high mobility, but it would be encouraged that if you are going to use his legs on anything, do make sure that you, and I do highly encourage that you do maybe use Semi-Cicade's head or another trap-based skill, so that you can make use of that Nest ability to help reinforce and reset traps that are on the field so that they don't expire on you, so you can maintain that extra level of passive aggression.